Ladies and gentlemen, as we begin our services, if we can please kindly turn off all cell phones or electronic devices, or please place them on silent. Thank you.
Welcome. This is not the way it was supposed to go. And it was not the trajectory that Melissa Bernstein Hotz's life was on. We weren't supposed to be gathered today in this room for this purpose. Parents aren't supposed to lose a child, and a 14-year-old isn't supposed to lose his mother. The pain and sadness felt by this family and felt by so many of you fills this space. I didn't write it, but I can see it in you. I saw it in the faces of the family members I met with, and in the words shared on the screenshots of the many Facebook posts that I'm sure some of you wrote and put on her wall that her sister shared with me. She was your family member. She was your friend. She was perhaps struggling with similar demons as you are. So it is all very personal, painful, and heartbreaking. Yet, Missy's struggles and her passing don't define her life. She loved music and singing and dancing and dressing up for Halloween and cooking and softball. Her mother, Jane, described her as a very, very, very loving person. And she loved her sisters, to whom she was so close. And we especially note the deep love that she had for her son, for Garrett. And Garrett, if I may, none of us can imagine how difficult this is for you. And as you continue to grow and continue to adapt and continue to grieve, know that there's an army of people around you who love you. I felt that when I spoke to the family, their loving concern for you, your aunts and uncles and your grandparents. So for what it's worth, I ask you to lean on those supports because they identify with what you're feeling and are here for you with nothing but love. You know, my 15-year-old nephew lost his father, my brother, last year. And as difficult as that was and remains, I've seen that with a loving family and supports and friends, healing is possible. So to all of you gathered today, I share with you a line from Psalms that reads, Ozi v'zimratia vayihi li lishua, which means, my strength, coupled with a pouring out of song to the Holy Blessed One, to God, to the divine, to whatever you want to call it, will be for me a salvation. And I pray that we all find salvation and healing through this service today. May Missy's memory become for all of you a song to the divine. And may we all find, and may you all find strength in it. May this song, as we raise up her honor, her dignity, her kavod today, in her memory, coupled with your strength, lead to salvation for others both inside and outside of this room who similarly struggle. And may Melissa Bernstein Hotz's memory, God willing, be an everlasting blessing. So more formally today, we are brought together in loving memory of Melissa, Malka Chana bat Eliyahu v'Shena Edel Zichrona Livracha, of blessed memory. She is survived by Charles Hotz, along with her mother, Jane Bernstein, and her father, Eric Bernstein, and his wife, Susan, her son, Garrett, her partner, Jacob, her younger sisters, Jillian and her husband, Josh, and Rachel and her husband, Jake, her grandmother, Bernice, and many loving aunts, uncles, and cousins. I pray I got all the names correct. I did. I got a thumbs up. Okay. Not to mention, of course, her family through her work and her larger community. May your loving support and care for one another, God willing, carry you through this difficult loss, and may you find love and inspiration in one another as you begin to process and make sense of this tremendous loss. May our time together today have purpose and deep meaning, and may it honor well Missy's memory, who passed away just a few short days ago. My name's Rabbi Nathan Weiner, the rabbi of Congregation Beth Tikva in Marlton. It is an honor, truly, to be present here with you today, to mourn her loss with you, and to celebrate her memory. I spent some time this morning reading through the beautiful tributes that were made on social media to Melissa. I know the impact she had, because I read it from you, that she had on so many of you, and I invite us now to take a moment of silence and think about just one of those memories, or to raise up the lasting impact that she has had on your life. We'll take a few moments in quiet. Invite you to gently return back. Today, the goals for our time together are multifold. First and foremost, we're performing the mitzvah of kavod hamet, of honoring the deceased. And for most of our time together today, we keep our kavanah, our intention, on her memory and her honor. That's our primary mitzvah. Closer to the conclusion of our time together, we shift our intention to be a community of consolation, supporting the mourners as they prepare to recite for the first time in her memory the Mourner's Kaddish. But first I read from Tehillim, from Psalms. Psalm 23, a psalm universal across the Abrahamic faith traditions at moments of grief and loss. I'll read it first in the Hebrew, followed by a standard translation in the English. If you're familiar with it and would like to recite it with me in either the Hebrew or the English, you are welcome and encouraged to do so. Mizmor leDavid, Adonai ro'i lo achsar, binoteshe yarbitzeni amei menuchot yinahaleni, nafshi yeshovev yancheni b'maglei tzedek leman shemo, gam ki elech b'gates al mavet lo irara, ki ata imadi. Shivtecha umishantecha hema yenachamuni. Ta'aroch lefanai shulchan neged sorarai, di shanta v'shemen roshi, kosi rivaya. Ach tov v'chesed yirdefuni kol yemei chayai, v'shavti b'veit Adonai le'orech yamim. a psalm of David. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. From Kohelet, Ecclesiastes, for everything there is a season, a time for every experience under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to uproot what has been planted, a time to tear down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to grieve and a time to dance, a time to throw stones and a time to gather them up, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to seek and a time to lose, a time to keep and a time to discard, a time to tear and a time to sow, a time for silence and a time for speaking. Now is a time for speaking, as a number of members of the family have prepared words of a hesped, of a eulogy, to uphold her kavod, her dignity. And first, we're going to hear from Uncle Jay and Auntie I.
Melissa was our first niece, first grandchild in our family. She was named after our father. Born with the face of an angel, with her hair sticking straight up. Missy just lit up the room when she entered. We watched her grow up, looking after her baby sisters. She was an athlete, an exceptional softball player. All the days spent at the fields with her dad, just precious, happy times. She became a loving mother to Garrett, her beautiful son. We watched her struggle terribly and go through really hard times. But just as she was finding some firm footing and happiness with her family, with Jake, and with her fellowship, where the best of her shined through, helping other folks in need. This terrible, insidious disease that never sleeps reared its ugly head.
Now, Melissa, as you all know, had a great sense of humor. For those that know me, I kind of have an odd sense of humor myself. And what I loved about Missy was she always got me, which a lot of people didn't. She was always in on the joke. Throughout the day, we'll hear many stories and remembrances from family and friends for who she was to each one of you. It's really hard to define a person. A person could be so many different things, to so many different people, and life's journey takes us on all sorts of different paths. She was a very special young lady, and we just wish she would have known how very special and how loved she really was. She would live in our hearts forever, And thank you all, because I feel the love in the room. Thank you.
Invite her sisters, Jill and Rachel.
All right. Time. It can be our worst enemy, our greatest gift, but one thing's for sure, we always want more of it. Since the beginning of my time, I remember Missy. She was my first friend, my teacher, my confidant, my partner in crime, even if she didn't always want me around. I think most of us know the trash can story. For most of my life, I remember fun, loving, and happy times together. And then a horrible monster started to steal it from us. And for a very long time, I didn't have Missy. Over the last 4 years, things changed, and Missy was able to quiet the monster and to get ahead of it and to take it back and take back her upper hand. Moments I never thought I'd have with her were happening almost on a daily basis. She would stay at my house and even dog sat Tyson a few times. She participated in my bachelorette. She stood with me as I married my best friend. She made countless treks out to Lancaster to hang out at her happy place. We had beach trips and adventures with Garrett and an epic surprise birthday trip to Boston for Bill. We had daily phone calls and a constant text chain that became pretty crazy and blew up on the daily. And she was back. My vivacious, fun, loving, goofy, sassy, hardworking, badass sister was back in full effect. And I couldn't have been more proud of her and how hard she worked to get to where she was. What she accomplished, not many are able to do. And everything Missy did, she did fiercely. She loved hard, she worked hard, she fought hard, and she always, always, always wanted the best for everyone. I couldn't have asked for a better last 4 years with her. And then sadly, one day, the monster came back, and as hard as she fought, my sister was gone. The day she passed, I was on my first day of what was supposed to be a week-long vacation. I was sitting on the beach that morning, and I just couldn't shake the awful feeling I had in my soul. Something was terribly wrong, and my stomach was in knots, and I couldn't focus, and I couldn't engage in anything. And everything someone said to me just went in one ear and out the other, and I felt off or out of sorts, as most of our family likes to say. And I think siblings are connected on a deeper level. And I think I knew even before I got the phone call. Me and Missy had a thing for the movie Practical Magic. And there's a scene in the movie about the moon and how when there's a ring around the moon, it means that something bad is going to happen. So every time I see the moon like that, I would send her a photo and say, "Watch out." And she would immediately reply with the text from the movie. I saw that moon the night we lost Missy. But this time I don't think it meant something bad. I know she was just sending me a little sign to let me know she's there. And the last thing we talked about was getting sister tattoos of the phases of the moon, because I had found a photo with a little quote that I thought was super fitting, and she really loved it. It said, "And just like the phases of the moon, you shall go through phases of light and dark and everything in between. And though you may not always appear with the same brightness, you are always whole." And that was Missy. She knew that she couldn't run from her past, and she was wholeheartedly embracing her present, and her future was taken too soon. But I wouldn't get back the time we had with her, the real her, the whole her. Boo and I will never break our chain, Missy. We'll love you forever and always. Love, Bean.
Melissa, Missy, Mel, Bernstein, Hotz. However you knew her, she was something to a lot of people. To me, she was Missy, the first daughter to my parents, the oldest of 3 sisters, a mother to an incredible young man who she loved more than anything in this world, a granddaughter, a niece, a devoted partner, a loyal friend, and a helping hand to a stranger in need. Missy was a lot of things to so many of you here. We all have our special memories with her and our cherished moments. When Missy walked into a room, there was no mistaking she had arrived. To put it simply, she was loud. When she showed up, she showed up. Her funny, beautiful, sassy, eccentric spirit always kept me on my toes, in good times and in bad. But luckily for me and everyone else in this room, it had been a delicious stretch of good times these last 4 years. Probably the best times. At least for me. At least for me, we had made some of the best memories we hadn't had a chance to make in a very long time. She was at her best, and we all saw it. She devoted the last 4.5 years of her life to helping others who were in desperate need of someone like my sister. She was there when they needed to be seen. She was there when they needed to be heard, and she was there when they needed to be understood. When I found out Missy was taken from us, I didn't know what to do with myself. So after bouts of crying, puttering around my apartment, more crying, anger, guilt, and so on, I sat on the edge of my bed, the late afternoon sun flowing into the bedroom. And as the wind was blowing and the trees swaying in the wind, this big bee just bobbed outside my window, almost like it was sitting there, wanting me to see it so it could say hello. I didn't think much about that moment again until later that evening, when I was laying in bed, unable to sleep, my mind all consumed with my sister. And then something came over me to understand the meaning of the name Melissa and where it came from, so naturally I Googled it. I learned that in Greek mythology, Melissa is a princess of Crete who was changed into a bee after she learned how to collect honey. Her name came to mean honeybee in Greek. A feeling of comfort came over to me as I read and reread the meaning of her name. Honeybee, my little Greek honeybee. It's so perfect. She was a little worker bee doing all the hard work day in and day out to help the larger cause, the larger mission. I never gave up until she accomplished what she set out to do, and that was Missy. Losing Missy has given me an aching feeling throughout my body I can't quite figure out how to bring relief to. A longing for something you'll never get back. Life being ripped away when there's so much time left to be spent together. Too many memories waiting to be made, milestones to be celebrated. I feel blindsided like so many others in this room right now. Life is too short. When things are going so well, it's only natural to think you're going to see the ones you love again. And I'm so sorry I took that for granted. I love you, Missy. I'll miss laughing with you. I'll miss crying with you. I'll miss headbanging to screamo music in your car with you, having sleepovers when we're together. You will always be my big sister, wherever you are, wherever you're going. I know you'll always be the loudest one buzzing around the room.
Her partner, Jake.
I tried to keep it a little shorter because I'm a mess. I've never met someone like her, and she was everything to me. Today is one of the hardest days I've had to endure, as today I celebrate 4 years sober. I also lay my baby girl down to rest. Melissa Ann was my favorite person on this planet. my best friend and keeper of all of my items when I lose them every 10 minutes. It is with a heavy heart I stand up here, but the first time we met, I was running my mouth in a meeting, so I guess we'll end it that way as well. I could have never gotten through the past 2 years without her, truly. Through sleeping in hospitals with me, my mental health challenges, she rode through it all. The family that sits before me, or the relationships she gave me, like my new family that sits before me, for making and raising such an amazing little kid that I got to love and spend time with. And I will never forget the holidays and the batting cages. I'm sorry. She was truly my soulmate. She really did look at me like with the emoji with the heart eyes. She thought everything I said was funny, even though it wasn't. She was my absolute biggest cheerleader. And this is just what she did for me, not including the hundreds of people in the rooms of AA, some who are here today, to the outreach in Camden and her community with the homeless, which she felt so strongly about. I never met anyone who loved people the way she did. She always spoke so highly of everyone. It was kind of annoying, to be honest. But she never spoke bad on anyone's name, and she loved you all so much. It's our job to not let her memory or her hard work pass with her. She will be guiding me from here. Thank you, everyone who has helped her along the way as well. These past few years were the best of her life. She told me that, and I really believed it. I can only hope I helped her find true joy while she was here. These past few years were only possible through reconnecting with her family, spending time with her son, and being there for her friends. Thank you, everyone who has been there for us and her.
And lastly, her father, Eric.
I'm not supposed to be here. What if? Two words I can't get out of my head. What if I was there to stop her? What if I held her tighter? What if I wasn't so tough on her? What if I just took her for help? Then that passed and the other two words came to my mind. I know. I know I was powerless to stop her. I know this was her journey. I know as a father, I did everything I could. Yeah, I know. As a father, I have no way to express in words the love I have for my daughters. They are not just souls that surround me. They're souls that live within me. They are part of what makes me me. They comprise the fabric of my life. And today there is a hole in that fabric. Today I lost a part of myself. That hole will now be filled with memories. And fortunately, I have those in abundance. Over the last few days, I received many calls, many texts. How are you? How are you feeling? Are you all right? At times like this, nobody knows what to say. So let me just put it out there. I'm not doing well, and I feel like shit. But there's a voice in my head, and it's telling me, Daddy, it's gonna be okay. One day at a time. That voice was Missy's. I did get one call, though, that put everything in perspective for me. She told me that this moment, this event, doesn't define her life. Thank you. But this is what defines her life. Not only did Missy talk the talk, she walked the walk. She gave unselfishly of herself. If you needed her, she was there. Everyone in her life came before her own needs. Helping others, for some reason, made Melissa whole. She chose to work in an industry dedicated to helping others like herself, to give back, to pass it on. Missy was a friend that a friend would like to have. Interestingly enough, Jake sent me a text the other day. There was a response to one of his posts. Somebody reached out to him for help with detox. Even in death, her spirit is still working to help people. Now for a family perspective. Missy was a loving sister, a beautiful daughter, and an incredible mother. Prior to her addiction, the girls were inseparable. During her addiction, the family was torn. Once in recovery, we, the family, were whole again. Family holidays, Jilly's wedding, Missy was back with a force. In her youth, she always tried to get over, always trying to get away with things. When Jilly was born and her mom wasn't paying attention, Missy tried to throw her in a trash can. As she got older, she could be a real pain in the ass. Obstinate, argumentative, but at the same time, her capacity for love had no bounds. Words I used to describe her: bling, loud, vivacious, caring, loving, free spirit. My nickname for her was Angel Face. When she walked into a room, she lit it up. The girl knew how to make an entry. I have so much in my life to be grateful for, most of all these last 4 years. I look out over this room and it's filled with so much emotion. There's grief, there's sorrow, there's despair, but none of that overshows the presence of love that's in this room. Now, for those of you in her fellowship, there are no words. There are no words to express how grateful I am for the support, the grace, the love you gave to Missy. You were her extended family. And like a family, you watched over her, and she watched over you. The program and its people gave me back my angel face. If only for a short time, but those times were filled with joy and love So thank you. I just want to close this with some lyrics from a song that I thought were apropos. Close your eyes, have no fear. The monster's gone. He's on the run, and your daddy's here. Beautiful, 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 beautiful girl. Before you cross the street, take my hand. Life is what happens to you while you're busy making plans. Beautiful, 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 beautiful girl. Thank you all for coming.
I did not know Missy in life. I came into a relationship with this family in a brief window since her passing, and when I met with the family yesterday, her father, Eric, told me that she was a free spirit. He just said that again. And now we have a task of praying for her spirit to be free. We acknowledge that her embodied self has come to rest, but we pray for her soul, her spirit. In the Jewish tradition, we pray a prayer called El Malei Rachamim. It's the central prayer of a Jewish memorial service, and it asks that at this moment that her soul be granted true rest in God's warm, divine embrace. I'll read El Malei in English, followed by the chanting in the Hebrew. If you're physically able, I invite you to please rise. O God, full of compassion, who dwells on high, grant true rest upon the wings of the divine presence in the exalted spheres of the holy and pure, who shine as a resplendence of the firmament to the soul of Melissa Bernstein Hotz, who has gone to her eternal home. For charity has been donated in remembrance of her soul. May her place of rest be in the Garden of Eden. Therefore, may the All-Merciful One shelter her with the cover of God's wings forever and bind her soul in the bond of life. Adonai is her heritage. May she rest in her resting place in peace, and let us say, Amen. El Malei Rachamim, Shochen Bamromim, Hamitzei Menucha Nechona, Al Kanfei Hashchina, B'malot Kedoshim Utehorim, Kezohar Harakia Mazhirim, Et Nishmat Malka Chana Bat Eliyahu V'Shena Edel, Shehalcha Le'olama, Ba'avor Shenadvu Tzadaka Ba'ad Hazkarat Nishmata, Began Eden Dehe Menuchata, Lachen Bal Harachamim Yasti Reha Baseter Kenafav Le'olamim, V'yitzror B'yitzror HaChayim Et Nishmata, Adonai Hu Nachalata, V'tanuach Al Mishkava B'Shalom, V'nomar Amen. Please remain standing. We've symbolically concluded our obligations to Missy, and we now, as I mentioned before, shift our kavanah, our intention, to form a community of consolation performing the mitzvah of Nichum Avelim, comforting the mourners, with their first recitation of the Mourner's Kaddish. Mourner's Kaddish will be led by dear family friend Eli Swerdlin, who I welcome up. And Mourner's Kaddish is a unique prayer in the Jewish tradition. It is what you say when you're a mourner, but it doesn't speak about death at all. It begins with the words, Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabbah. May God's name, great name, be made greater and more holy. The idea behind this is when you have the opportunity to do a mitzvah, you rush to do it. And this mitzvah, saying, may God's name be made greater and more holy, is a mitzvah. And when you do a mitzvah, you get the credit, except for this one. Had she not passed, you wouldn't be performing this mitzvah. She gets the credit. So in a real way in the Jewish tradition, the goodness, all that you heard from her family and all that you know in your heart to be true about her, about the goodness that she brought into the world and in your life, in the Jewish tradition continues when you say Kaddish. And God willing, it'll be a comfort for you as you navigate the loss. So in your booklets, family, they're on pages 15, 16 in the traditional Aramaic and the transliteration. And
Yisgadal, V'yisgadash, Shemei Rabbah, V'yomah Divra, Chirasei, V'yamluch, Malchusei, V'chayechon, V'yomechon, V'chayeh D'chol Beit Yisrael, Ba'al Galoh, V'zman Kariv, V'yamru, Amen. Yehei Shemei Rabbah Mavorach, Yolam Olmei Olmaya, Yisbarach, Yishtabach, Yisbar, Yisramam, Yisnasei, V'yisadar, V'yisala, V'yisalal, Shemei D'Kudsha, Baruch La'ela Min Kol Berchata V'shirata, Tush Bechata V'nechmata, Damiram B'yomo V'yamru Amen. Ehei Shlama Rabba Min Shemayim, V'chayim Olenu V'kol Yisrael V'yamru Amen. V'oseh Shalom B'mramav, V'yoseh Shalom, Olenu V'yokol V'Yisrael V'yamru Amen.
please be seated. Our formal time together here at the chapel is drawing to a close. The family asks that donations in Missy's memory please be made to the Agape Project. Information on how to make that donation can be found on the Platt Memorial Chapel's website in her obituary. Further, guests, family, and friends are all welcome immediately following our time here for visits and a meal of consolation at Lions Lake Park at 101 Dutchtown Road. As we move to conclusion, I conclude my piece by sharing with you the traditional words of consolation. We say, Hamakom yinachem etchem b'toch shar ve'lei Tzion v'Yerushalayim. May the Holy One of Blessing have comfort for you among all the other mourners of Zion and Jerusalem. And may Melissa Bernstein Hotz, Malka Chana bat Eliyahu v'Shena Edel, Zichrona Livracha, may her memory be an everlasting blessing.
We pray that her spirit is having wonderful things happening on the other side.
Amen. There are directions to Lions Lake Park, where we're gathering immediately following, in the lobby, which you can take on your way out.
Okay, we have it.